armoured by his elaborate armour, stretched full length in adoration before the lararium. Close to his face he noticed the gold thread in the white carpet. The fabric smelt slightly musty. None of this was his fault. None of it. The year before last in the East he had been ill. Half the troops with him had been sick. If he had not ordered the retreat to Antioch, the Persians would have destroyed them all. Not just the southern force which was left behind, but the main Roman field army as well. Here in the north, the frontier had been breached in numerous places. Opening negotiations with some of the barbarians was not weakness. There was no profit in fighting them all at once. Judicious promises and gifts could induce some to stand aside, maybe even join in the destruction of their brethren. It did not mean their punishment was waived, merely deferred. Barbarians had no concept of good faith, so promises to barbarians could not be considered binding. Such things could not be stated in public, but why did the soldiers not see these obvious truths? Of course, the northern soldiery recruited from the camps were little better than barbarians themselves. Their comprehension was equally limited. That was why they could not understand about the money. Since Caracalla, the emperor, who may have been his father, had doubled the pay of the troops, the exchequer had been drained. Veturius, the treasurer, appointed by his mother, had taken Alexander to the fiscus. There had been nothing to see except rank after rank of empty coffers. As Alexander had tried to explain more than once on various parade grounds, donatives to the army would have to be extracted by force from innocent civilians, from the soldiers' own families. A rush of light as a hanging was pulled back. Felicianus, the senior of the two Praetorian prefects, marched in. No one announced him, and no one closed the curtain. Through the opening, past the prefect, flew innumerable tiny birds. They darted everywhere around the chamber, flashing bright yellow, red, and green as they passed through the band of light. How many times had Alexander told their keepers about the trouble and expense in collecting them? At every dinner, when they were released to hop and flutter about entertainingly, one or two were lost or died. How many would be left after this? Felicianus swiped with futile aggression at those that veered and banked near his head as he walked towards the pale gleam of the twin ivory thrones. The emperor's mother was seated there in the gloom. Granianus, an old tutor of Alexander's, now promoted into the imperial chancery, stood by Mamaea, whispering. The secretary of studies was always to be found by the side of the empress, always whispering. Alexander returned to his devotions. What you do not wish that a man should do to you, do not do to him. He had had the phrase inscribed over his lararium. He had heard it in the East from some old Jew or Christian. An unwelcome thought struck him. He raised himself onto his elbows. He looked for the court glutton. Alexander had seen him eat birds, feathers and all. It was all right. The omnivore was in a corner beyond Alexander's musical instruments. He was huddled with one of the dwarfs. Neither was paying any attention to the ornamental birds. They were staring blankly into space. The mutiny seemed to have drained all their vitality. "Alexander, get up and come here." His mother's voice was peremptory. Slowly, not to appear too craven, the emperor got to his feet. The air was thick with incense, although the sacred fire burnt low on its portable altar. Alexander wondered if he should tell someone to get some fuel. It would be terrible if it went out. "Alexander!" The emperor turned to his mother. "The situation is not irretrievable. The peasant that the recruits have clad in the purple has not arrived yet. His acclamation will attract